You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Mr. Green, and you are listening to the TNA 2014 Knockout Knockdown Pay-Per-View review on the Women's Pro Wrestling Network channel. If you haven't subscribed or liked our videos, please do. And when this video is done, search around a little bit, find some of our other stuff, maybe poke around at a few matches and things of that nature. You may find something that you like. Now, let's go into the review for the last pay-per-view that I've watched from TNA. Now, of course, they've had plenty of other pay-per-views. We do know that TNA is in a bit of a reconstructive period as we speak right now. Something that is not necessarily female wrestling related, but their time on Spike TV is over, and their upcoming time on Destination America has begun. Consequently, it seems that Spike has decided to be petty and just without notice shift the remaining TNA Impact episodes to the middle of the night. For whatever reason, I don't understand that. It does seem like a quite the petty move to me to, without rhyme, reason, or warning, take them from 8 p.m. What was it, 8 p.m. Eastern Time? I believe. Well, 9 p.m. Eastern Time as a start time on a Wednesday, and suddenly shoot them to a start time of 11 p.m. So, I don't know. I guess at this point, the network doesn't care. But in any case, the point that I was beginning to make before I sidetracked off there is that I don't do a typical level of reviews with TNA because, you know, the bulk of their reviews, the bulk of their pay-per-views wouldn't fit within the context of this channel. However, TNA, for a long period of time, or Impact Wrestling, if you will, for a long period of time, has been regarded as the top promotion for independent women wrestlers to try to get to. Maybe not in terms of pay, but in terms of a showcase. It is the place to go, and I would tend to agree with that. And for the second year in a row, they have taped a Knockouts pay-per-view and put it out. Of course, these are months apart when they do this, but the fact is that they done it, and it was a much, much better product than it was the previous year. If you haven't heard the last review that I had with the Knockouts pay-per-view, it is also listed on this channel, and I was very disappointed with it. If for no other reason than the format of the show just felt wrong. It didn't feel like it was a pay-per-view at all. It just didn't seem as if they gave a lot of thought or effort into it. And in my opinion, I'm sure people within the confines of TNA would tell me differently. But in my opinion, it didn't seem like they gave a lot to it. This one, however, I did feel like it had some thought and some time and some effort put behind it. It felt a bit more like a pay-per-view and less of just a random show with random matches tossed together and clips of video to try to string it all into one cohesive unit. That's what I felt about the one last year. This one, however, there was. I don't want to go so far to say that there was a story, but there was a underlying theme of the pay-per-view. That theme being is that you have TNA knockouts. You had established knockouts. You had Gail Kim, Angelina Love, Velvet Sky, Madison Rain, Taryn Terrell, Brittany, who a lot of us know as Santana Garrett, Brooke Tessmacher, and ODB, who all were there to take on what we would, I guess, come to call the aspiring knockouts of the evening. And those aspiring knockouts were people that, if you're like me and you follow the names that are on the indie circuit, you probably would have recognized quite a few of them, or at least recognized the faces. Those aspiring knockouts listed were Veda Scott, Scarlett, Reby Sky, who they just referred to as Reby on there, I think. Jessica Havoc, who went on to drop the Jessica within the TNA roster when she joined and just became Havoc. Carly Perez, who some people may recognize from as former WWE Diva Maxine. Mia Yim, who was a returning aspiring knockout. Deanna, and Marty Bell. Those were the names that came in for the aspiring knockout side this year. And that gave it a little bit of something extra, in my opinion. Again, I can't stress it enough. Last year's Knockout Knockdown felt very much like a random string of matches put together, and let's throw some video packages in between it to try to make it look cohesive. Whereas this one, it seemed like the line was drawn in the rosters. We got our aspiring group of girls. We got our established group of girls. And these two groups individually were going to have match after match after match to see who was going to go into the finals, which was the Gauntlet Battle Royal. Of course, in the Gauntlet Battle Royal in the TNA world, it is very much like a Royal Rumble. I don't think they come out every 2 minutes, but at a set interval time, I'm going to just say a minute worth of time. You start off with 2, every minute another one comes out, and then when you get down to the final 2, it turns into a one-on-one pinfall submission. You know, a normal match. I'll say every form of elimination is available at that point. It's not just kick them out of the ring. If you haven't seen or ordered this pay-per-view, I would at least say that if it is still under the $20 price range, it's worth watching. It's worth watching just in the score of you get to see some really good matches. Gail Kim versus Veda Scott, which was surprisingly the first match on the card, I thought was really good. They put on a good show. Veda Scott, didn't get to do what I feel is her strong suit. Veda is a really good talker, and if you haven't found her online just to see her do some promos, she's a very, very comfortable talker. I would say maybe one of the best promo women that exist out there. But that was the first match on the card, and surprisingly, I felt like a Gail Kim and a Veda Scott should have been maybe upper middle, or last. But they gave it to you first. Probably, maybe they wanted to come out of the gate hard, and they did. I thought they did a really good job with that. Second match was Angelina Love against Scarlett. And I'm not going to go off into results here because, you may want some element of surprise. I'm sure if you want spoilers, you can go online and you can find them if you want. But Angelina Love took on Scarlett, which was interesting just in the interaction between the two of them. I thought Scarlett, of all the girls that were there, did a good job in portraying her character to the audience. If nothing else, she did a nice job of letting you know who Scarlett was and what Scarlett was about. Thought that was really good. Reby versus Velvet, the Battle of the Skies. Of course, Reby, who has she's married to Matt, and at this point she's pregnant. She's expecting a child. So, as we know, this took place months ago here, so that didn't have anything to do with this. But a big congratulations to her. That also was a pretty good match. Madison Rayne versus Jessica Havoc was a really interesting match in that Jessica Havoc, from this point in the pay-per-view to where we see her now, has been more or less portrayed as the monster. Much like Lady Topper did, much like Awesome Kong did. So anybody that's been matched up against her has had this uphill battle, and Madison Rayne played that very well. Taryn Terrell and Carly Perez. Carly was working the heel role, and she did it to perfection, I must say. Mia Yim versus Brittany, which was one of those matches that they actually did well across the board. I don't want to say just this one, but they did well across the board in giving you the impression that any of the aspiring girls could potentially beat any of the established girls. And I thought that was good, opposed to last year where you knew the second that most of those girls stepped in there that they didn't have a chance. So that in and of itself made it worth watching. Brooke Tessmacher got into the ring with Deanna, and Marty Bell against ODB. ODB did double duty that night. There was a little bit of a storyline there in that EC3 and Rockstar Spud were the host of this pay-per-view, more or less. And that's kind of weird, too. Now, if there's any drawback that I have or any criticism that I have about the pay-per-view in general, it's not the matches and it's not the performance. It's the span of time that it takes between the taping of these pay-per-views and the release of these pay-per-views. By the time I'm watching this, Rockstar Spud and EC3 have already split. You know, that unit has pretty much gone. Spud is not a heel character anymore on the pay-per-view. He is. Now, granted, I understand that, you know, you're watching this in past tense, but it is just such a long way away from the taping period that is, you know, certain things, it gets a little hard. I mean, the actual taping date was May 10th of 2014, and it didn't air until November. So that November 7th, to be exact. So it was just a long ways away before you got these stories across, or these matches across, and a lot of the things that were going on with the Spud EC3 interaction had already died down. So, you know, that was a little weird watching that. And then you're looking at people who are no longer aspiring knockouts like Jessica Havoc, or you're looking at people that aren't with the company anymore like ODB. So, you know, just those little things. And that's a minor complaint. I don't want to play that up like it's some sort of huge, big deal. But it was a minor complaint, and it's something that you can get past. I could get past. It wasn't that big a thing, but I just, you know, I have to put out my criticisms along with the positives. Without going into great detail, the Gauntlet Battle Royal, for those who do not know what the actual prize is in these pay-per-views, it is to be declared the Queen of the Knockouts. I think that's a fair thing and a nice title to bestow upon the girls. My criticism in this point remains the same as it was in the 2013 edition. I still feel that having a Queen of the Knockouts tournament, which is basically what this is, there probably should have been a bigger deal about what was going on. It should have been a bigger deal about what that crown meant. Without me as a viewer, and I can only speak on this as a viewer looking to it, I'm looking for the logic in the situation. And without it ever being explained, well, what do you get out of being the queen other than just a tiara and saying that you're the queen? I don't really understand why all these aspiring girls would want to be in there so badly, or why the established girls would bother to be in this tournament. It was never said that, okay, if you win the Queen of the Knockouts tournament, you win 50 grand, or you become a number one contender, or both, or something like that. No, I always thought that should be established. It never was. It would have been nice if they could have just said something along those lines, like, once you're Queen of the Knockouts, you're instantly the number one contender, or something like that, which does have its drawbacks because of the huge gap of time that they have between the taping of this and anything that goes on in present day. Hope maybe that'll change when they go to Destination America. Maybe they'll get back to being able to just tape one and put it in the can relatively quick. Maybe they can get some quick turnaround, possibly 2 weeks, and get that thing up or something like that, and move on. I don't know. I mean, I know it's more logistics to it than that because you're dealing with a pay-per-view provider. But it would be cool if that crown meant something. If us watching the girls go into the ring and compete against each other actually had some validity to it, some value. I just didn't feel that way. My basis of comparison for that has always been when you looked at the King of the Ring tournament. The WWE, being who they are, always puts in the extra buck for production. They have a throne, they have a crown, and there's so many words in the last few times that they did it. It was supposed to have been some big deal that would skyrocket your career, or it would get you position as a top contender, something along those lines that would seemingly make it worth your while. In the TNA verse, the Knockouts, Queen of the Knockouts, is never acknowledged on television. The closest you get to any acknowledgement of them on television is just the fact that there's a pay-per-view coming up. And the drafting of the aspiring knockouts, the drafting of the independent girls from the indie circuit is never really acknowledged either. I is only my suggestion. I'm not saying that it's better, not saying it's worse, but it would be great if on television they could at least promote the pay-per-view in lieu of saying, X amount of girls are trying their best to try to get into this thing and compete for our Knockouts crown. Girls you may have heard of, the Veda Scotts and the Mia Yims and the Marty Bells, so on and so forth. Yes, a lot of people that's watching TNA will not get it, and they probably won't know the names. I understand that. But the wrestling fan base that TNA does cater to, which is, I would say, a good chunk of their audience, will get it. At least 75 to 80% of it will get that. We'll catch the names. We'll know who those people are. And it'll make TNA, in my opinion, seem as if it were a bit of a bigger deal. And they've always had the option with the girls in that company to at least try and deliver something that the WWE can't. The WWE isn't willing to give their girls, at least on television and sometimes on pay-per-view, more than about 3 minutes worth of match, and that's where that'll start and stop. TNA is a lot different. They actually deliver. They actually give you matches with the girls, and they give you strong matches with the girls. As evident by the last couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure. I think we're still in reruns at this point before they go to Destination America. But as it stands right now, they've given you pretty strong matches. They've given us Havoc versus Gail Kim. They've given the three-way with Taryn Terrell, Havoc, and Gail Kim. They've given us the beautiful people making their presence known amongst the Knockouts division. Santana Garrett, or I should say Brittany, as she's known in the TNA universe, or TNA world. I guess it's not really a universe. I don't want to infringe on WWE's gimmick. But those are just a few examples, just a few of the talent that they have down there in TNA's roster, and the things that separate them from the WWE, that they actually allow those girls to get in there and go and have a competitive match. All in all, to sum it up, this one is worth the time. It is worth the money. I wouldn't put $50 down on it, but when I saw it advertised initially, I think it was about $15. I don't think it was more than the 20. Certainly worth that. I don't think there's a lot of. I actually don't believe there's any bad match on the card. If you got anything wrong there, you probably are getting it because Gail Kim and Veda Scott opened up pretty hard, and it came back down in terms of delivery with the rest of them. But they weren't bad. They just had a tough act to follow. Those two girls are pretty talented, and that's probably a very hard act to come behind. But if you can find it, go ahead and rent it. There's no telling when TNA will ever put that on DVD. It took them a year to get the first one out, and it took a year for them to get Bound for Glory. So, you may not want to wait on that. You might want to try to just go ahead and grab it off of pay-per-view. If you're lucky, you might be able to grab it on YouTube. Somebody actually uploaded the entire pay-per-view at one point on YouTube, and I think it's removed now. You may find it. You might get lucky. Who knows? But either way, whether you can find it online on YouTube or whether you decide to purchase it on pay-per-view, I totally feel that it is worth the money. It is far and away better than what the first one was in 2013. They still got some extra stuff to do. They try to make it a grand pay-per-view. I wish they didn't have this lengthy amount of time between the two. I wish that the crown was a bigger deal, and I wish that they treated the event like it was a big deal, and that those girls that come in from the independent circuit had some sort of motivation or some sort of drive in order to get there. Almost like draft day. So that's it. That is the review. I appreciate you guys sitting down listening to it. And again, as I stated earlier, if you got time, scan around on our page. You might be able to find some new matches and some other reviews, other interviews that have either been taped new or brought up from the WPN archives. So that should be some good stuff there. I also want to give a quick shout to nerdblock.com. So if you're a nerdy type of guy or gal, you may want to give them a try and sign up for their service. You put in your t-shirt size. You can get a new nerdy shirt once a month, every month, along with a bunch of other little collectibles. Depending on what your tastes are, you would have to fill that out on there. So if you're a movie nerd, you might like Marvel and Marvel properties. So you might wind up with some Guardians of the Galaxy figurines or something like that to go along with your brand new shirt. And once a month, every month they deliver. So just give them a look up. Like I said, Nerd Block. Go to nerdblock.com and you can get all that information. So thanks, everybody, for coming in and tuning in to this podcast. Hopefully we'll have some new content up for you in short order. Be sure to like the videos and subscribe. We will really appreciate that. It's things like that that keep us going here on this channel. It's a very small core of people that even deal with this, in terms of podcasting and video and editing and audio editing and attending the live events and whatnot. And it is your subscriptions and it is your liking the videos that let us know that it is, that is still moving along and that we can still keep doing what we're doing. It shows a huge sign of support. So we appreciate that. So, all right, guys, thanks again. Appreciate your time. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Check out some more videos and we will see you later. Bye-bye.